I like to think that we always try and bring our A game and stuff like that. We're entertainers, raconteurs.
Looks desperately at the Gunbuster episodes. I stand by all of my opinions, just so we're clear.
We're still getting angry comments about that.
And I still don't give a
But today in particular, I feel that you should be extra motivated for your work and this video because you have in fact been paid.
I mean, legally I've been paid. I have not received the payment yet. There'll be some motivation, but like I don't have motivation at my real job for when I get paid, Dave, so I don't know what your point is.
Does your real job pay you in anime figurines?
Legally, yes.
But not directly. There's a man in between.
No, I get paid in good boy points, like all good people in this great country that we live in, thanks to Boris Johnson. Who's the Prime Minister again?
It's not the one that tanked the economy completely, it's the one after that.
Thank you, Gordon Brown.
I'm busy messaging Rob going, I want to get some new software for After Effects so I can do some fancy pixel sorting stuff. It's, you know, X amount of pounds, we can use the We Heart Giant Robot funds for it. And Rob's reply was, yeah, sure, you can do that. I want anime figurine stuff. And me, being a big dumbass, was like, yeah, alright.
So, Dave, what are we recording today?
We're doing all of
Girls und Panzer!
Does this count as a Mecha show?
Legally, yeah. I believe at the time there was massive arguments across a certain website which has boards to discuss certain types of anime.
A Vietnamese basket weaving forum, you might say.
I think a technical term is a Mongolian web weaving forum. Anyway, there was arguments and it was decided that it was okay to post everywhere, so it was posted everywhere. So I don't care.
It's still getting posted fucking everywhere as well. If you go on the most magical of those boards.
I just also want to quickly shout out, since the AK posts are actually who translated the first proper translations into English. However, their subs are the most questionable because there's a lot of Metal Gear Solid memes in there for no reason. Kept you waiting, huh? Should not be the translation so often.
You download translations and subtitles done by a bunch of K-posters, you are gonna get translations done by a bunch of K-posters. But yes, I guess we are reviewing Girls in Panzer, and quite a substantial chunk of it as well. Our plan today is we are going to cover the Girls in Panzer TV series, one of the slightly larger OVAs, and then Der Film as well, or The Film, to translate it from German. We will not be doing the finale movies, just because those aren't finished yet, but that's the general gist of what we're doing here.
Interestingly enough, I actually own physical copies of every piece of Girls in Panzer media that is released in English, including the mangas.
I am Jack's complete lack of surprise.
I mean, it's a good series. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Fun things are fun.
The English dub deserves to be burnt. So Dave, since I am the bigger fan of this series, shall we say, I want you to explain the plot without using the word tank. Panzer doesn't count.
Damn it, okay. I think the best pitch that I can explain, at least the plot of the TV series, is to say that it is your classic early 2000s sports comedy plot where the cast must save their school from closure through the power of friendship, wholesomeness, and overwhelming firepower.
Understandable. Tell me more.
It's a very, very silly fucking concept when you actually try and put it down. Girls in Panzer is, it pretty much spells out what it is. Girls and
there
tanks.
isn't a martial arts with tanks? What do you mean?
Sen Shadow.
I've never actually looked to see what that's the actual translation of that actually is.
I think they sometimes translate it to like tankery or something like that in some of the dubs, but that sounds fucking dumb. Let's not go with that.
What does Sentia stand for? Ah, god damn it, I now have to use the moon runes to translate. Okay, Google Translate says it stands for Tank Road. So, Tank Road.
Okay, that doesn't make things much better, but we'll go with it. So the art of Tank Road, which is what we will be calling it for the rest of the video,
correct,
is what these girls are taking part in. It's a very, very silly concept. It is a bunch of high school girls whose schools are for some reason on aircraft carriers.
I think the logic behind that is global warming, but I don't know if that's ever explored. I'm just going to rock with that.
Near enough as I can tell, or that I'd noticed, it was never explained. It was one of the few things in this series where they're just kind of like, yeah, just don't worry about it. They're on aircraft carriers. It's fine. Anyway, our protagonist, Miho Nishizumi, fuck it, we'll just go with Miho because I can't pronounce Japanese names, is the kind of black sheep of this family line of people who are very, very into Tank Road. And so she's gone to a school where she thinks there isn't going to be any more Tank Road.
It's a school that does not have a Tank Road team.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, when she arrives, she discovers that, well, the school council president is very, very keen to start up a bit of tank roading, and naturally they grab her and go like, hey, congratulations, you are now in charge of this. And hijinks and fun things and nice things ensue, and also tanks.
A lot of tanks.
Just a lot of tanks. Yeah, like I said, it's
a lot of tanks.
Along the way, they must battle the British, Urgustan,
When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah.
some sneaky fucking Italians. The combined might of the Soviet Union compressed into the form of a small girl. And a horde of Veribus.
Auf der Weide blüht ein kleines Blümelein und
It's a very fascinating, weird fan base. I would even say the secondary main character, which I believe is Yukari.
That's because she's your favorite.
She is the
The
favorite.
best one's Mako, though.
False.
Because she's tired, and I relate to this on a deep and personal level.
Because of this character, that's the character that most inhabits the fan base. Is the best way to
Yeah,
describe it.
she's
Because that is the fan base.
She's a tank weep. Tell me what exactly it is about this that you enjoy so much.
Honestly, it's just because it's fun. It bypasses the part of my brain which goes, you should be questioning what's going on here, and goes, tanks are shooting, this is fun. Have you ever watched, what's it called? The medieval MMA stuff where they're all wearing full
Yeah,
plate armor?
M1 and Bohurt and all that sort of jazz. Yeah, I've got some friends who do that. They're insane.
You watch that, right? And you're like, but why? But your brain doesn't go that. Your brain goes, ha, knight's fight.
This looks cool as shit.
Yeah, so my brain goes, ha, tanks are driving. And I don't care. I don't question any of the internal logic of the series. I just go, you know what? Fun things are fun, and this is fun.
The thing is, though, since we're talking about like the sort of internal logic of the show,
It's absolutely consistent.
it really is. That's something that struck out to me when I was watching through this. Like, inherently, the core concept of Girls in Panzer is a little bit silly.
Yeah, because the whole idea that you can have safe tank warfare where little girls, because this sport only allows girls, is safe is ludicrous.
I think that's what I like about it. Like, they've, within this stupid concept, they have taken a lot of time and a lot of effort into trying to make things make sense within the show's internal logic. And I feel like this actually sells it a lot for more. Like, they could have just gone, hey man, this is a stupid fucking show. Don't worry about it. Rule of cool. But they actually take the time to explain things and make things make a little bit of sense within the context of the show.
But then they use the rule of cool everywhere else. I'm afraid none of the tanks can perform any of the maneuvers they get them to do in this series. I don't care.
Doesn't matter.
Because that's when the rule of cool is used. Whereas like the rest of the series where it's like, for example, when buildings are destroyed by accident through tank road, it's explained that this is a sign of good luck.
They set it up as a joke. Like, you see a guy get a tank like rammed through his shop, and initially it's like, my shop. Pause. This is amazing. I'm gonna get compensated. What good luck and all that jazz.
And then in the film, his shop gets ruined again.
Yeah, it's a show that actually kind of respects its audience and knows its audience and knows that they're probably going to spot these details, so we should maybe take the time to consider them. And that is true of both the TV series, it's true of the OVA, and it's true of the film as well. This show respects the audience and it is very, very consistent with its world building. Again, this is a dumb show about high schoolers competing in Tank Road. The fight scenes have no right to go as hard as they do. Holy shit, these are fucking amazing fights. There's just so much creativity on display, down to the way like they frame the shots, the angles that they use. It's very unconventional. It's not just like when you look at something like this and you maybe think, okay, this is like a cheap production slapped together for a quick buck and they're not really bringing their A game. No, they absolutely do here. They're trying all sorts of interesting stuff. It's very, very creative and it's very fun to watch. And they choreograph some pretty fantastic fight scenes. Again, this is, as you say, where they do the rule of cool, but I'm okay with that because again, fun things are fun.
Fun things are fun. Because, like, for example, if you were to be that worried about certain tanks not being able to penetrate other tanks because of their millimeter and the armor values and all that, fuck off.
Yeah, rule of cool.
Yeah, but then that could be passed away with, they've modernized these tanks for this thing.
Specially treated with carbon to ensure that it isn't going to get penetrated. We have thought about this.
I honestly don't care.
I appreciate that they've thought about it, but also, it's fine. Show me the cool fight scenes.
Yeah, exactly. Fun things are fun.
It's an extremely wholesome series as well. There are no serious subplots here. Maybe a little bit with Miho and like the way she departed from her previous school, pardon me, but she very quickly gets over that.
You mean the subtle PTSD storyline that's never elaborated on?
Yeah, she just kind of gets over it. It's just like, all right, cool, that's fine. Yeah, I have friends
Pretty
now.
much.
We're good. And then it's just cute girls doing cute things, some of which involve tanks. The historical accuracy of the tanks, for all, again, it's a very silly show. There's clearly been a lot of research gone into this to try and get the details, the interiors, the look. The sound design as well, pretty solid.
Even the scopes that are shown are accurate to the different countries and even the different tanks. So, like, for example, you're taught how to sight a Panzer IV scope through the series, through the use of the sighting triangles that's used. But then other tanks are shown with different sights. So it's very interesting that even to that extent it is done.
Very clearly, again, respecting their audience, respecting the details. I think a lot of this, well, I can't say for sure the rest of the staff involved in this, but they did specifically have a guy on staff who was like their historical consultant called Takaki Suzuki, who I think had worked on a couple other projects with the same team as well, like Strike Witches and the like. And that just seems to be what he does in the industry. Like, he worked on Gate and stuff like that as well to try and get the soldiers. You say what you will about Gate, but at least they got some of the details and the military stuff right.
Gate's a very interesting anime.
It's just, we should probably cover that at some point.
That means I'd actually have to watch it.
It's not good, but it's not good in a very interesting way. It's an underdog story, so you know for certain that they're going to win. I'm kind of reminded of something like No Game, No Life. It's not a question of if Ori Academy will succeed, it's more a question of how spectacularly they're going to do it.
Yeah, that's the very interesting thing with the series. There's never, I wouldn't say there's much tension.
No, not
you
really.
You know they're going to win because it's a sports anime. That's how sports anime work, unless you're Ash from Pokemon.
Any criticisms that you wish to level against this one, Robert? Because I'm struggling here. I'm not going to lie.
The only criticism I have of the TV series is the recap episodes, but I understand that comes from a production problem, because I remember when it aired, it was like the recap came out in December 20, like it came out Christmas Day, I'm sure, and then it was like, see you in March, motherfucker. It's like, right.
I think the only thing that I could potentially mention here is that you can tell that this was quite a small budget series. Like, you can feel the budget straining, particularly outside of the fight sequences. Like, there are some really, really sloppy looking parallaxes here and there, and it doesn't always look as good as it probably could. They are stretching that budget to the limit, but what they managed to do with that is pretty fucking impressive and a lot of fun.
The other criticism, quote unquote, that I have to mention, because we always make fun of CGI animation, but I don't think it's done poorly here. It's quite often cheaply done, but I wouldn't say it's used poorly.
They know the limitations of the technology as it was at the time. I think it's got a lot better over the last even just a couple years, to be honest, but back in 2012, 2013, blending 2D and 3D elements never looked good, so they don't really do it too much here. There's one or two moments where they have like Miho popping at the top of a very obviously 3D tank, which don't look great, but outside of that, that's mostly where they use the 3D animation, is in the tank battles and the tank sequences, and they still take the time to draw the tanks in plenty of moments as well. It's more in kind of the high-end battle sequences that you see the 3D used, so they use it pretty well. This series should not have worked. This was a niche show. Even the people making it did not think that it was going to be this massive success. They just thought this was going to be a fun... It comes across as a bit of a passion project, because these guys clearly are bringing their A-game, but they thought it was going to be niche, and it was funded accordingly, as we just mentioned.
There was a lot of delays when it aired. There was at least 2 recap episodes.
Which is never a good sign.
It's never a good sign. The only other series I can think of which had that, which was also a good series, was Evangelion. That tells you everything you need to know there. Like...
Man, we really need to finish the rebuild films. Fuck.
Shh. No more tears.
However, this show did in fact fucking work in a big, big way. I think it was the most popular, or like top 5 shows in its original broadcast run. Despite the delays and everything like that, it maintained that popularity the whole way through its run. It only got more popular afterwards as well, through reruns and things like that. It has subsequently led to a massive bump in tourism for the actual town of Ori, which was used as kind of a model for the carrier ship that the girls were studying on. They are still holding events related to Girls in Panzer there last year, so this is an enduring trend.
I believe it's actually been used to entirely rejuvenate the area, because it's created a huge influx of essentially tourism to the whole place.
This is what I like about this. There's so many wholesome and nice things that have come out from this dumb fucking show about girls driving tanks.
But the interesting thing with this series, all these things came together at the same time. So Girls in Panzer comes out in 2012. After the release of, I believe, World of Tanks got its actual release in 2011. War Thunder's also released around the same time. The Tank Museum starts up its YouTube channel, and it basically manages to capture this audience that it didn't even know it had before it was released.
Yeah, they were in the right place at the right time.
And it's magic in a bottle, and that's where the series just developed from. Because like, it's very obvious when the series starts that they didn't quite know what they were getting themselves involved in.
They were just doing a silly little show, just like a one and done kind of thing, and then it really fucking wasn't. How many hours do you have in War Thunder again, Robert?
Let's not Google that.
No, I'm going to check now, actually. Hang on a minute. Let's pull you up.
No,
on Steam.
I will tell you. Don't you worry. It's only 2,824 hours.
Jesus Christ. War Thunder, 2,824 hours, followed closely by Hearts of Iron 4, 2,176 hours, and then Wargame Red Dragon, 1,403 hours. You are on a fucking watch list, sir.
Probably.
Or someone at MI5 is not doing their job.
But yeah, so like Girls in Panzer manages to capture this weird zeitgeist of essentially tank weebs is the word I'm going to use.
Yeah, a very, very particular breed of people, but a very passionate breed of people. Massively popular series, which was inevitably going to lead to more content, probably some films. But before we cover the film, I'd like to briefly touch on the OVA. Specifically, this is the real Einzio War.
So the important thing with this one is the actual battle that's depicted in this was cut from the anime. It got cut from the anime because of production reasons. And it's literally... Is this the episode where they go through the haunted bit of the carrier? And at the end, the Anzio team are shown through a still, having been defeated?
I remember seeing it at the time going like, oh cool, they've got Italians. They're going to be fighting Italians. This ought to be interesting. I can't wait to see what they do with this fight against the Italians. And then the episode ends with them just kind of like skipping over the entire battle. It's like, oh okay. Well... That sucks.
They ran out of budget, so they just didn't do it. So they did it through these two stills. They came back to do the OVA.
It's more of the TV series. In no way, shape, or form is that a bad thing. There's a tank battle. The Italian school does some shenanigans involving fake tanks, which promptly gets discovered by the girls from Ori Academy, and then they get wrecked.
Which is also a reference, because a lot of this series has weird references to things that actually happened during World War II or other tank battles. And during the North African campaign, cardboard tanks were used extensively by both sides.
In this OVA too, there's another couple examples of, that whole internal consistency and world building that I was talking about earlier. Like, I thought that they were doing the rule of cool thing with the number of, I think it's the CV-33 that the Anzio school used quite a lot of. You can tell that the funding has gone up here because the battle sequences, again, look even better this time. But you see them, like, swatting away all of these CV-33s and seeing these tanks go flying off into the distance. And they establish right at the start, there's only 10 tanks per school here. And I'm counting up and going, yeah, they've definitely ragged more than 10 here. What the fuck is going on? Are we just rule of cooling this here? And it was like the series could tell I was thinking this, because it then takes the time to explain that these CV-33s aren't actually getting disabled by the shots due to their sort of small size. They're just getting knocked over, and so the drivers are able to roll them back over and continue fighting. And I'm going, cool, you guys have thought about this. This is fantastic. And then the other detail as well is they actually take the time to, even though, as we just explained, the reason why Anzio didn't really appear in the TV series is because they didn't have time for it, so obviously they don't show up in the finale. It wouldn't really make much sense to have this school that just appeared in a couple stills to be suddenly there. And they actually take the time to explain why Anzio High School does not appear in the finals of the TV series, which was specifically that they all slept in. They didn't have to explain that, but they did.
They did.
And I love them for it. There isn't really a lot to say about the Anzio OVA, to be honest. It's literally just more Girls in Panzer, because they suddenly had the budget and the demand, and that's it. I'm struggling to find a criticism here. Only one that I could say is that even by the low standards of Girls in Panzer, where there isn't necessarily a lot of tension or will they, won't they, or are they going to succeed, there's really not a lot of tension here. There's not a lot of sense of, Ori Academy might lose. Like, no, this is just kind of a stomp.
Well, I suppose, but the thing is, you already know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know they're going to win, so who cares? So,
that is consistent with the TV series, so, like, what you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. You just know they're going to win because they have the power of friendship, and that's established in the first episode.
We are operating on, again, sports comedy rules here. The underdogs will win. You have no choice in the matter. It doesn't matter how good you are, how clever you are, they're gonna win. They have the power of friendship. Fuck you. Fun things are fun.
Fun things are fun.
Naturally, they did not just stop with OVAs. They were always going to do a film.
I just want to be clear there, before we go into their film, the use of German throughout the series is fucking awful.
I think they're doing it on purpose.
I know, but I don't think Panzer War means what they think it means.
I would do a quick summary of the plot here, but I don't need to, because the plot of their film is literally just the plot of the TV series again, but it's bigger.
Because now you know the big bad guy is actually the government. As I keep telling you, Dave, the government is shutting down the school, and the only way they can stay open is by winning this other competition.
And of course, to win this much bigger competition, they've got to bring in all of their friends, all of the other schools that they beat previously, plus some Finnish people.
The real fun is the friends we made along the way.
Once again, friendship will triumph over everything. everything, including and not limited to the government.
The government.
But yeah, it is just that somehow Palpatine came back sort of thing. Like, yeah, we're just doing it again. Fuck you. It's a good plot.
Fun things are fun. We've been over this. But this time there's a budget.
Now they have money and they can make it look good. And oh boy, do they. Yeah, this film is fun as fuck.
It's probably one of the funniest anime films I've ever watched that is both consistent with its series that came before it. Doesn't feel like they're trying to rip me off by doing the same thing again. It makes sense that the plot is the fucking same. Like, it's great. I'm in.
It's an extremely funny movie as well. Like, they introduce a new school here called the Chihatan Academy, who are Japanese tanks, essentially. And they want a banzai charge.
Everything.
What do we do in this situation? I have considered all of our possible angles that we could do here, and I am absolutely certain that banzai charge is the solution. I mean, with a more limited runtime, you would think that they might just focus on the core anglerfish team, but they don't just do that. They actually give time to the different Ori teams and give them a chance to shine a little bit. Like, my favorite bit from that is when, after the school has been closed down, the Public Morals Committee basically have a meltdown and decide to give up, and they basically just become mirror versions of Mako. Like, they just can't be fucked with anything. And it's actually Mako who has to go and try and get them to stop being lazy. It's wonderful. Like, just great bits like that are set up, giving the audience something to enjoy because they've experienced the previous TV series. Like, it's great. Fundamentally, this is a film that knows exactly what it wants to do, sets it all up perfectly, and then it does that. It's not got any pretensions to it. It knows exactly what it needs to be. I think the bit that stood out the most for me was in sort of the setup for the final climactic battle, where to explain it here as well, because we kind of brushed it over, they basically have to fight a university team led by this little tank road prodigy called Alice, and they're some of the best in the world, essentially, and so all of these different school teams have to come together to try and beat them. And they're setting up this final battle where they're driving towards this fairground, and it's basically the film telling you, look at all these cool and interesting locations and weird shit that you can see sticking out there. Yes, we're going to use all of these in the battle. Even the Ferris wheel film, especially the Ferris wheel.
Chekhov's Ferris wheel, if you will.
It really is.
Chekhov's got it.
Bigger budget, naturally, here, because they have much more funding, so that naturally leads to bigger spectacle.
And it fucking shows, because everything is like, oh, okay. I don't know if you've watched any of the next film series at all.
No, I've not done the
They
finale
have
films.
more budget.
Excellent. I would expect nothing less. But it gives them so many opportunities to do some wild, silly, and crazy shit. And they also actually take the time to do a lot of, well, not a lot, but they do a couple like hand-drawn 2D sections, particularly in like the final confrontation between Miho and Maho going up against Alice. Like, very clearly just hand-drawn battle sequences. They did not have to do that. They weren't doing that because it's easier. They did that because they wanted to show that they could. I want to do an entire section of this video where I enthuse about the Finnish team because they are the best.
You just want to use that one scene and
Yes,
change it to
yes, I
Memorex.
do. Continuation High School are the best.
I think they're being set up as being the big bad guy to Das Final, by the way.
I'm fine with that. It was the Finns all along. Apologize to the Finns. What I love about them is the way they're introduced into this. Like, they have no established ties to Ori Academy. Like, this is a new team for the film. Their leader openly admits to not really giving too much of a shit about the problems that Ori are facing. They basically just showed up on this, like, big, massive school team to meme on some university students. And that is exactly what they do. I guess this is me doing my UFC references here.
Oh,
Continuation
no.
High School are kind of like the Davy Grant of Tank Road. You never expect
of
them
our
to get a
audience
title
knows
fight.
what that
I
means.
don't care. Look him up. He's wonderful. You will never expect him to get a title fight, and yet you will watch every single one of his matches just to see him do some weird shit. That is exactly what Continuation High School does. Unsurprisingly, given the massive success that this entire series has received since it launched as a sleeper hit, the movie was a pretty massive success as well. They made, I think, somewhere in the region of 22 million at the Japanese box office alone.
It also got a actual theatre release in the UK, including Scotland. It also was screened with Mad Max Fury Road.
Based.
Because it was considered in Japan to be the same level of excitement as Fury Road.
Yeah, that fits. One involves cars, one involves tanks.
Witness!
Do we have any criticisms for the movie to level?
No. Moving on.
Again, you could maybe say that it's just the plot of the TV series again. Is
I don't
something
care.
of a criticism.
Give me more.
Maybe could have done new ground, but I think they're doing that with
I
the
don't
finale.
care. Give me more.
More tanks.
Yes.
More fun things.
Yes! Don't think you understand how much these things are fun.
That brings us to the conclusion.
Watch the fucking show.
And then develop a crippling addiction to either World of Tanks or War Thunder, as you see our man here, and then slowly slide down the road where you're playing Hearts of Iron 4. How many hours again was that? 2,000 hours of your life you've sunk into that? How much is 2,000 hours in days? 83 days of your life you have spent playing Hearts of Iron 4.
And
There was something that kind of occurred to me as I was watching through this series, again with a big grin on my face, and I realized that as I'm getting older, I find myself a lot less drawn to kind of darker, edgier stuff, the stuff that I thought was really, really cool when I was younger.
you mean
like
the stuff I've been bullying you for?
Yes,
years.
that stuff.
Right.
Like, this is the kind of TV series that I would have probably gone, this is a bit fucking silly and childish and stuff when I was younger. I want to watch this darker, more serious stuff. These days, I have come to the realization that sometimes nice things are nice, and sometimes fun things are in fact fun. And Girls in Panzer is a show that embraces this truth and then straps it to the side of a panzer.
I think that's the thing with a lot of these stylish shows. This is my favorite kind of show, right? I don't like the cutesy weeb shit. We've been over this numerous times, but I don't have a problem with it if it's consistent with the rest of the show. The show is about friendship and about the friends we made along the way. Sometimes that's okay, as long as you're firing 75mm shells at the enemy. Having watched this series and having also watched Band of Brothers, there's no legal difference between Girls and Panzers and Band of Brothers. It's about a group of men forming together to make an elite unit. It's about a bunch of girls forming together to make an elite tank road school. All I'm saying is it's the same thing. Good night.
What are we planning on doing next, Robert?
Death.
I don't have time for that anymore. I have a child due.
F.
Oh god.
The spawn of Dave. Oh, we should do the Omen next. We need to do Goblin Slayer, Evangelion, Twin Peaks Series 2, Twin Peaks Series 3, Twin Peaks movies. Probably throw in at least 4 Gundam series there.
What do we need to do next? We've still not done...
MS Igloo. Let's go.
We need to do Double Zeta, Robert. Robert, we need to do Double Zeta. We've skipped over it too many times. It needs to be done.
The number you have tried to reach is not available.